Hey everybody, this is Chris with Overclockersclub. Reolink keeps cranking out the cool stuff. So, what could this be? Alright, I'll tell you what it is. It's a new camera from Reolink, and it's in a very unassuming plain box. That's because this is a prototype or a quick look at a first release, so the consumer packaging is not all finished just yet. But this is something totally different from anything else Reolink has offered. And there are actually 4 versions of it. Like I said, the retail packaging I have not seen yet, so it may or may not be packed the same way. So it looks like there's a mounting bracket. This is all plastic, some sort of a metal base bracket. And sometimes these things change by the time the production unit comes out, but I'm not entirely sure about that. There's an Ethernet cable, some anchors. There's your little weather-tight seal for an Ethernet connection. And down on the bottom here, there is a nice little screwdriver and the actual camera. Now there are 4 flavors of this camera that will be available. This particular one is PoE, which is power over Ethernet, so there is no external adapter. No need for one because everything comes through your Ethernet cable, the data and the power on a PoE device. So what this is, this sort of takes care of one of the issues when you have a camera and you've got a wide angle, your image is distorted off to the sides, and it's only really clear, and the perspective is nice right in the center. Well, what Reolink has done is they've come up with the new Duo, and what you have are basically 2 cameras, 2 lenses that are angled such that you end up with 2 images that should sort of match up in the middle to sort of produce one big image. I think that's the goal, and we'll see that here once I get it fired up. But there are 4 flavors of this, 4 versions. This is the PoE, and then there's a Wi-Fi version that is a battery-powered Wi-Fi version. Then there's a wired Wi-Fi version, so it'll be powered. It'll have a power socket along with Wi-Fi capability. And then there's a 4th one that uses a cellular connection, a lot like the Reolink Go, I believe. I haven't seen the specs on it, but my guess is it's probably a lot like the Go. So what's interesting about the body here, there's the little cover on the bottom where you put your micro SD card, and there should be a reset button under there also, so you can reset the camera. Looks like there's an external speaker. This right here looks like the microphone right in there. Probably a daylight sensor for the night vision. It looks like we've got looks like IR LEDs. I'm not sure if this is a spotlight camera or not. We'll find out when we get it all hooked up. But you have your array of LEDs along the bottom there. And there's a threaded insert, a brass insert. These are usually 1/4 and I'll check that also a little later. There's one on the bottom and one on the top, so you can suspend the camera from the top with the mount over here, or you can support it from the bottom, which is nice. And on the cable here, it's really just 2 things. You've got it looks like an optional power, so you can power it up externally if you want to. Usually it's a standard 12-volt adapter, and then of course there's your Ethernet connection. So the next thing to do is to scan in the QR code here on the back, and the Reolink app really does all the rest. They've come a long way over the years with these cameras. They used to be a real pain to set up, but anymore you scan the QR code, put in your password for your network, and you are rolling. Also included is the standard batch of Reolink information. Usually there's a template for mounting the base somewhere in here. Yeah, there's a little template for this little metal piece. There's a waterproof lid installation guide. Okay, so this is your little connector here, your weatherproof connector for your Ethernet cable. If you've never put one together, follow the instructions. They're all pretty much the same, at least all the ones I've seen. They're a little tricky if you've never put one together, but once you get it together, it's not too bad. So there's the instruction set for that. Here's the quick start guide for the Reolink Duo PoE. It says /Wi-Fi, but it must cover both versions. So it shows you what all is in the box, and it looks like, from what I see here, everything is in there with the exception of the power adapter, but again, this one does not need a power adapter. And this shows you the order to set things up. If you don't have the Reolink app on your phone, whether it's Android or iOS, you need to get that on there, and this sort of gives you some mounting tips. So it's good to go through all of that. So next is getting it powered up, and they give you several, oh, it looks like several different languages of your Reolink security warning stickers. And now I will go ahead and get this thing powered up. Now I haven't scanned the QR code in just yet, but I have the other end of this cable plugged into my PoE switch, and we'll power it up and just see what it does. Usually it goes through a little startup sequence and takes it a moment. There used to be audible prompts on these cameras too, but we'll just have to see what happens. Alright, so I let it sit for a moment here. I would think if anything was going to happen, it would have happened by now, so I guess I'll just go ahead and scan the QR code and see if the app on the phone recognizes the camera. Well, that was very easy. I just scanned the QR code in on the bottom of the camera, gave it a password, and since it's not Wi-Fi, I don't even need to tie into my Wi-Fi network. And it came right up. And I'll show some images from it here in a little bit. Now, what I did to get the spotlights to come on, and they are very bright, is I just covered the little daylight sensor here for a couple of seconds and they came on. So they are definitely intense. Alright, so I've got the camera outside. I had to run an extra long Ethernet cable out here from my PoE switch. But the next thing to do is to get the SD card installed. So I'll get this cover popped off. Screws are a little stiff at first because of the fact that they're new. So get the cover off. There we go. And it's just the standard slot where you put the SD card, and there, right there, is the little hole to push the little button there to reset the camera. Alright, so I got the little cover off here, and when you put it back on, make sure there's a little rubber gasket that is sort of attached to it here, so make sure you don't lose the little gasket there when you put it back on. But then you take your SD card, and the little symbol shows it going in, I think like that. You'll know right away if it doesn't go in smoothly. Don't force it. And there we go. I had to push that in there pretty good until it clicks. So the SD card is in there. It is a 32 gigabyte from Micro Center. And I'll get the screws back in. So after I got it fired up, I had it just sitting outside overnight to catch a little bit of video and sort of play with some of the settings. But now I'm going to actually mount it so I can get a view of the roundabout that is right next to me. So this is the main bracket, and you can see it's got a little offset here. So it gets mounted to a wall like this, so the offset is sort of sticking out towards you. You'll put these two screws in at the top, leave the bottom one out for the moment. Here's your main bracket, and it actually has a little catch right here that fits over this offset. I'll show you from the side. So this goes into that little pocket, and then it rotates down, and the third screw goes in there. So that's why you only put the first two screws in, and the last one goes in at the bottom. Now, the top of it here, this actually pivots, rotates, and it can go up and down like that. So there's a screw on the bottom that you'll want to tighten to sort of lock it so it doesn't move around. But that's how the mounting bracket works. And again, this is all plastic. And there is the Duo mounted on top or right above the 823A. I'll post a link to the 823 also. But I've got them mounted on the pole there so we can get a good view of the roundabout. Usually there's quite a bit of action here at the roundabout, so we'll follow up a little later. Now the next few video clips here are all captured from my PC using the Reolink app. So you can see here the two separate images, the two separate feeds can be manipulated independently when you're viewing them on the app. You can also change the resolution independently, although I would think you want to keep them both the same. And then I can go over here to the settings, and you can see that you can also get in and make your changes and adjustments to the two different channels. And again, they can be controlled independently. Next, we have some night vision. Of course, I have a lot of ambient light from some street lights, so I really do have some very nice video feeds here. I've got the spotlight on. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference, again, because I have so much ambient light. The camera is actually mounted to that pole that is actually a street light in this particular location. And again, here's the infrared imagery. And I switch back to the color mode. And then we're going to go back to the daytime so you can see what things look like. Again, some very nice video captures. And then a little later here, we go to the sunset, which captures nicely. Now you can see there's a little bit of a color differentiation between the two cameras. And there's also there's a slight overlap in the center. And I think that's just inherent with this particular camera. Now I moved the camera to a different location and got a little bit of video capture there. So I can sort of see the traffic going east and west. And this is the video playback. So you can go back and capture or look at the video that you've captured on the NVR. And I'm using the Reolink NVR here. So again, this is very nice. And it captures the video again as two separate channels. So you need to keep that in mind when you go back and view the video, or if you go back and try to download segments. You need to make sure you download the corresponding segment for the first channel and the second channel. So right now I'm talking to you through the Reolink Duo. This is the PoE version. Now what I really like about this camera, and what really makes this camera great, is the fact that it has the 150-degree field of view. You have two cameras in one, or two lenses with one camera. Normally you have to place multiple cameras to get this sort of field of view. Now they do make cameras with multiple lenses. That's nothing new. Those are more on the high-end, very expensive commercial security grade. But the Reolink Duo here sort of fills that niche. It gives you the wide angle for an affordable price. We'll talk about the pricing here in more detail in just a moment. But you've got your person detection, your vehicle detection. You've got great imagery, day or night. Just a great camera. Okay, so here's a quick look at the phone app. So here's the Duo, and when I click on it, you've got two images, and they are stacked. But this little icon here lets you shift back and forth. So if you ever bring it up and you only see one of the images from one of the cameras there, you hit that and it stacks them. And when you turn it sideways, it stitches it together into one image. Now keep in mind, when you record, you get two separate feeds, so you will get two separate videos. It treats these as independent cameras, but they are synced up, and you can use whatever software I use, like DaVinci Resolve. You can sort of stitch these back together into one video, but it doesn't do that inherently. And if I want to watch the playback, I just hit the playback and it gives you the little library here of all the events. So let's see what was happening around 10:38 this morning. So those are the two videos there side by side, or I should say stacked. Now they're side by side, and I can watch that particular recording event and fast forward through it, and it brings them both up automatically synchronized. Okay, so I said we were going to talk about pricing, and here we are. We have a nice comparison on the Reolink website, so we can look at all four versions. I'm looking at the PoE version. That's what we reviewed. Right now it lists for, well, the list price is $119 or $120, and they basically knocked not quite $20 off of it. And the shipping date on this, I believe, is November 30th. The next one over is the Wi-Fi camera, and this one here is $110, regularly $129, and it has the dual band Wi-Fi, and you get a power cable with it, so it's basically powered. And then this one over here at the far left, this one is $144, regularly $169, and it is the battery camera, so this one you could use a solar panel. And then this one is the 4G, which uses a cellular connection. It is on sale, pre-order now, for $280.49, regularly $329, so that's a little bit of a discount on that one. Now the release date on this one, I should say the availability is around mid-December, so it's a little bit later than the other three versions. And if you're not sure which one is right for you, again, this page here that Reolink has that compares all of them, you can look at the specs, and they're all pretty much the same, with a few exceptions down here at the bottom. Again, so you can go over all of these and figure out which camera would be best for you. And as usual, Reolink has a nice specifications page for this camera. There's all of your dimensional information, and you can sort of roll through all the other information here about the camera. And if I scroll down, you can see all of the specs. So I certainly recommend checking out the Reolink website to get all of your information. So the Reolink Duo is the latest from Reolink. Decent camera at a decent price. I like it. I would give it the Overclockers Club Gold Award. Check it out. This is Chris with Overclockers Club. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.